If you asked movie fans who the coolest character ever was, they might say Han Solo. He was clearly the most charismatic, funny, and clever character in the original Star Wars movies. And we've said before that those traits are very interesting to us. They make us want to pay attention to a person. And of course, there was a Star Wars prequel last year that starred Han Solo. But it might make you wonder why they didn't do it in the first place. If Han is so much more interesting than Luke, who's a simple farm boy, why not simply build the movie around him? Well, if that were the case, I think the movie might not have done as well as it did. And that's what I want to talk about today. Why sometimes the coolest, most interesting character is better off taking a step back. And the reasons why might show us some interesting stuff about how we work as people. Now, this topic relates to something we brought up earlier, which is the plain fancy dynamic in fantasy movies. Traditionally, things work best when a special person comes to the normal world, or a normal person goes to a special world. That formula lets us do a lot of useful things. First of all, it lets us naturally explain the situation. As the normal person learns about the special world, so can we.
You're in my school for the gifted, for mutants. You'll be safe here from Magneto.
And likewise, when the special person explains themselves to the normal people, we learn about them too. In the case of Star Wars, it's obviously a situation with a special world. That's not something you can change. And unfortunately, Han himself is also pretty special. He has an interesting job, he has an interesting ship, and Han already knows what's going on.
You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
There's not really a situation where we could naturally learn about things. And likewise, that plain fancy setup is a great way to structure the story, because the special part can keep our interest in the beginning, while we learn and start to care about the normal part. Han and the Jedi can make us interested in Star Wars while we grow an emotional attachment to Luke, or a special character can impress us while we learn about the real-world situation that they're going to fix. And by the end of the story, that normal part becomes more important. It does the heavy lifting by triggering some of the deeper emotions in us. Because you see, both Han and Luke can create interest in us. Han is very fit, he's smart, he knows what he's doing, he's quick. But Luke can actually create more interest in us. Because what Luke is doing is outside the status quo for that world. He's a character who's becoming a Jedi, a character who's joining into what's going on and will eventually affect things on a much larger scale. This generates a greater amount of interest in us because it creates more change. And likewise, both characters can confirm things for us, which creates a good feeling, but Luke can actually do it more. A strong and clever character can win in the end and show you that doing good things can lead to success. But of course, they also show you that you'll win if you're faster, stronger, and better than everyone else, which doesn't do much for us. It works much better if the character starts out without having much and becomes strong over time, because that's something we can all identify with. After all, we all start out small and having to learn about the world. And likewise, there's an important feeling we have when we see someone's life improve, and that's something only Luke can do for us. Since he starts out humble and small, we can see him grow steadily over the course of 3 movies. And in the process of seeing him grow, we can learn things about how we can grow ourselves and our own lives. And that applies across the board, because even if we're already successful, even if we're outside the stage of being children, we still want to get to whatever the next level of success is in our lives.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers Van Patten's card to mine.
It's a natural part of our desires to make us achieve the most. Our triumphs, the things we achieve, only make us happy for a short period of time. And then we go back to dwelling on our struggles and trying to overcome them. So that idea of being the underdog facing something that you don't quite know how to conquer is something that we can all identify with. And likewise, while we enjoy that Han is a little bit dangerous, that can get in the way of how we feel about him. If we're not sure if we can trust somebody, we don't necessarily give ourselves over to them emotionally. And at the end, Han's lesson, which is a great scene, shows that he learned something that a lot of the other characters knew in the beginning, which confirms things we want to be true, that lesson is important, that taking care of each other and fighting evil is good. But that's still a feeling of confirmation, which isn't quite as strong as the feeling of improvement. Now, having said that, there's the natural question. Why does it often go the other way? Why do we have movies with invincible main characters? Well, sometimes it's a matter of reversing the formula. The special character going to the normal world, where the normal world carries the burden of creating the confirmation and feeling of attachment and enlightenment and improvement that we need to get from movies. But also, I think that setup can be a bit misunderstood. Actors love to play the powerful character who runs everybody over, but that works a bit different when it's on the screen. Because those characters that have the greatest amount of strength tend to have a limited effect on us emotionally, and thus, having greater power can sometimes make a character weaker. I hope you found that interesting. If so, please subscribe and click the notification button, and I'll be back with more stuff soon. Thanks.